You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
The Stephen A. Smith Show is always being brought to you by Weston. Weston knows how disruptive travel can be to your well-being, but with rejuvenating heavenly beds and nutritious superfoods RX menu and gear lending for when you leave your workout gear at home, Weston will help you stay in control and rise above it all. Weston, let's rise. Learn more at weston.com. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. We saw a game last night. We saw a game where LeBron James came out, scored the first 16 points after being a bit indifferent and passive in game one, failing to take a shot until a little under 2 minutes remained in the first quarter, being called upon by Coach Tyronn Lue to be a bit more aggressive. LeBron James went berserk, scored the first 16 points, scored 20 points in the first quarter, scored 29 points in the first half, finished with 46 points, ended the game by hitting 3 free throws in the last 22 seconds. But the Cleveland Cavaliers still ended up winning the game 100-97. After having an 18-point lead, the Indiana Pacers were actually in a position to tie this game when Kyle Korver failed to switch on Victor Oladipo, leaving him wide open for a three on the right wing. Victor Oladipo was so wide open, he couldn't believe it and ended up missing the shot because he got distracted at how uncontested he was. And as a result, him missing that shot, ultimately Cleveland ended up escaping. And why do I say escaping with a 100-97 victory? Because despite the greatness of LeBron James, despite his 46-point outing, the show that he put on, okay? You're talking about 46 points with 12 rebounds and 5 assists. That's what we're talking about with LeBron James here. Despite all of that, on 17 of 24 shooting, by the way, that's 70% from the field for those of you who don't know. Despite all of that, you needed Victor Oladipo to miss that shot. You needed it because the game was that close, which lets me know that Victor Oladipo, the same Victor Oladipo that finished with 22 points, got in foul trouble, picked up 2 quick fouls just 62 seconds into the game. Had it not been for those 2 quick fouls, we might be looking at the Cleveland Cavaliers being down 0-2 in this first round series against the Indiana Pacers. It's just that simple. So I want to give credit where credit is due to Indiana. I want to give credit where credit is due to guys like Oladipo, to a Miles Turner that had 18 points on 7 for 12 shooting, to a Darren Collison who chipped in 16, to a Lance Stevenson who had 10 in 23 minutes or 5 of 9 shooting off the bench, not to mention the defense that he was playing. I'm looking at an Indiana Pacers team that shot 52% from the field. I'm looking at the fact that they could barely buy a 3-point shot, and they still almost won this game. Not to mention the fact that Kevin Love gets hurt. He's expected to be available for Game 3, but he re-hurt that left hand that had been bothering him. And I got to tell you something right now. My proclamations that the Cleveland Cavaliers would definitively come out of the East because it's about LeBron James, I'm not so sure about that anymore. Because the level of ineptitude that I'm seeing on the Cleveland Cavaliers squad in terms of their defensive, mishaps, they're overly relying on LeBron James. A guy like J.R. Smith who plays 35 minutes and only launches four shots. And I say 4 because even though he shot 2 of 5 from the field, one was late in the game when he stripped Victor Oladipo on a late play and ended up taking it in for a layup. That's a big deal. But 4 shots in 35 minutes, why are you on the court? Why are you the starting shooting guard and you don't want to shoot? It makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't understand it. I need J.R. Smith to be a bit more aggressive, especially with Kevin Love clearly not himself. You might shoot with your right hand, but you need to balance it with your left. And that's very, very difficult for him to do with the broken left hand that he's recovering from. Out there on the court and what have you. Other guys that needed to step up, it would be nice. It was nice to see Kyle Korver out there shooting 4 of 8 shots, all on threes. That was nice to see. But George Hill's the starting point guard. I need better than 6 points. I really, really do. I'm looking at LeBron and Kevin Love, and the only person that showed up with them with double digits was Kyle Korver. It's not like LeBron took 30 shots. And so we got to look at it from the standpoint that the Indiana Pacers should be more of a serious threat than we had originally suspected. And we got to wonder what LeBron James is going to be able to do here. Because Because I got them coming out of the East, but I'm assuming everybody's healthy, ready to go. I didn't know that Larry Nance would be non-existent, 2 points in 24 minutes. Or Jordan Clarkson, 2 points in 14 minutes. Or Jeff Green, 2 points in 12 minutes. Or Tristan Thompson, who wouldn't play at all. I didn't know this stuff was going to happen. It's hard to imagine what's transpiring before our very eyes. And it's hard to imagine that LeBron James is going to stay in Cleveland. Is he coming to New York? Of course, he's still a candidate for New York. Can't see it, y'all. And if you think the New York Knicks hiring David Fizdale as the head coach is going to get LeBron in New York, I don't see it. I don't see it. And speaking of the New York Knicks, I reported last night that Kenny Smith, TNT analyst, my buddy, is a candidate for the Knicks job. He's being interviewed by the New York Knicks tomorrow. I have no problem with this. We all know my opinions about Mark Jackson. I don't want to forget Mike Woodson because I think that he's been hosed. The fact that he lost his job under such suspect circumstances when Phil Jackson clearly should have kept him rather than bringing Derek Fisher on board vexes me. The fact that we ain't talking about Mike Woodson and the fact that he erased a 13-year drought by winning the Atlantic Division crown with the New York Knicks. His first full season on the job with 54 wins, that vexes me. You got openings in Orlando, Charlotte, and New York. Should Mike Woodson be considered for those jobs? You're damn right he should be. But you got Fizdale. You got Jerry Stackhouse, who's done a great job for Toronto in their G League, not to mention the fact that he's ingratiated himself with a lot of young players. And the New York Knicks, courtesy of James Dolan, talking to the New York Post yesterday, have made it very, very clear they need a coach that's relatable to today's generation of players. Even though your star's from Latvia, nevertheless, that's what they feel. Fair enough. You know what my position on Mark Jackson has been. You know it's not just about coaching, it's about a culture. Fizdale can coach, deserves strong consideration. Stackhouse can coach, deserves strong consideration. Mike Woodson should never be ignored. We should all be grateful for the job that he did when he was in New York, considering the circumstances. But the bottom line is, it's a new day, it's a new era. And so here we are. And Kenny Smith being interviewed Friday, I have no problem with it. I know he doesn't have any coaching experience. I understand. Me personally speaking, I would have preferred him as a GM rather than thinking about him as a coach. Because I think he's a brilliant basketball mind that obviously knows talent and can put pieces together, and it would be incredibly impressive. But I happen to like Scott Perry a lot, who, by the way, is no David Blatt fan. And I should say he doesn't have anything against David Blatt, Steve Mills' former teammate at Princeton, who's going to be interviewed himself for the New York Knicks job, but there's no way in hell he should get the job. But Steve Mills appears to be on one page reportedly. Scott Perry appears to be on the other page. In the end, Steve Mills is the one that's going to make that call. We all know that. We understand it. We get it. But if you are Mark Jackson, to me, he should be the leading candidate for this job. Kenny Smith, I have no problem with him being a leading candidate for the job as well, because Kenny Smith knows basketball. Kenny Smith is a two-time champion as a player. Kenny Smith was taught by Dean Smith and Jack Curran at Archbishop Malloy before that, where he starred as a high school player in Queens. We know all of this. We understand all of this. We get it. But in the end, what it comes down to is that whoever gets the job, in my opinion, needs to be somebody who's intimately connected to New York, to the point where New Yorkers could look at you, listen to you, hear you speak, and believe you and believe in you. That is what is needed. That is what is required. That is what is mandatory from this particular job. And since Mark Jackson is the one with head coaching experience as opposed to Kenny Smith, he would come before Kenny Smith. But Kenny Smith is somebody that warrants consideration. And we should all be very, very interested in what we hear from and see from the New York Knicks as it regards this particular interview. That is clearly something that we should be doing. There is no doubt about that. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. That is the deal. Let's see what happens. Let's see what we're able to make out of all of this. And let's see where we go from here. Because let me tell you something right now. David Fizdale can coach. I like David Fizdale. But if you think him coming to New York is going to get LeBron James to come to New York, LeBron James ain't coming to New York as long as James Dolan is here. I've been told that. I'm not knocking James Dolan. I'm just telling you what was told to me. LeBron James ain't coming here as long as James Dolan is here. Period. Why, I don't know. I can use my imagination, but why definitively knowing, I do not know. I just don't. But he ain't coming to New York as long as James Dolan is here. And so now we have ourselves a situation. Where do you go from here? And what kind of players do you believe you're going to be able to get your hands on? That is the question that New Yorkers should entertain. That is the question that they should want finite answers to. And only time will tell whether or not they'll be able to get it. That much we do know. 888, say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Little baseball item just for a second here. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but Giancarlo Stanton for the New York Yankees. I mean, this is some bad stuff, y'all. I mean, he looks god awful thus far. I hope it doesn't last. I don't believe it's going to last. But my God, it's pretty damn bad. 197, 3 home runs, 29 strikeouts. Yankees just 8-8. They got a bunch of issues. I understand it, particularly with their bullpen. But this guy can't hit right now. He was batting .226 at this time last year in Miami with 3 home runs and 19 strikeouts. But still, he's striking out more. He has no confidence. Maybe it's the cold weather. He was in South Beach this time around. He's in New York City. It could be all of that. But whatever they're doing for Aaron Judge, talking about he's your number 2 hitter, he thrives in that situation, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Try for Stanton, too. Most of the damage he did last year was at the number 2 slot. Just try it. That would be very, very nice. Because I got to admit to you, I'm tired of seeing this boy strike out. It's just embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. I don't see any other way to slice it. But that's how I feel about it. Going around the bend, the Angels have been a pleasant story. I've been incredibly and pleasantly surprised with what I've been seeing from them. They're in first place in the West with a 13-4 record. I am a fan of Mike Scioscia. Always have been, always will be. It's going to be real interesting to see what transpires in there. Houston's been struggling as of late, but we know that they could potentially be a juggernaut. Cleveland can never be dismissed. I'm getting all of this. But Boston is the team on a roll right now. And this early in the season is getting kind of hectic because the Yankees are already 6 games out. It's getting kind of hectic already this early in the season. You can't just dismiss these early games. You just can't do it. So I just wanted to point that out. 888, say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. One of the other things I want to bring up to getting back to the NBA, I'm incredibly concerned about what I saw last night in OKC. Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and Paul George all combined to shoot 0 for 14 in the fourth quarter. That's just disgraceful. They got to play better. But guess what? Billy Donovan also's got to coach better. Because a lot of those shots were contested. Most of them were taken beyond 10 feet. I mean, come on. Come on. Steve Adams with a little bit of foul trouble, but you got the big 3. There's simply no excuse to look that damn bad. And for those of you out there that thought I was smoking crack because I was proclaiming Donovan Mitchell to be my rookie of the year instead of Ben Simmons, how you feeling right now? I told y'all this kid Donovan Mitchell's special. By the way, he missed all 7 of his 3-pointers. He's got bad feet and still dropped 28 and still has 55 points in the first 2 games. And still is a go-to guy for the Utah Jazz. If you didn't know, you better ask somebody. You can sleep on this brother all you want to. But Donovan Mitchell is special. And nobody from Oklahoma City has appeared to be special. And as a result, you got to look at them and say, hey, could the Utah Jazz put them in trouble? Yes, they could. Because the Utah Jazz seem to know who they are. They seem to play within themselves. And they never seem pressed about anything. That is definitely a problem for Oklahoma City. And if you're Billy Donovan and you got 3 stars on the court, no, don't get me wrong. I understand that Melo may have dissipated a little bit. I get all of that. I understand it. But you got 3 prolific scorers on the court together. You can't use them as a decoy to make sure that somebody's generating some amount of points for you. I'm just looking at Oklahoma City offensively, and I'm like, Billy Donovan, show me something. This shouldn't be that damn hard. It just shouldn't be. 888-SAY-ESPN is 888-729-3776. When I start this show every weekday, as hard as it is for some of you folks to believe, I'm a pretty happy guy. Life is well. Things are going well, career. I'm surrounded by loved ones and people that I love dearly. And the only time that things really get me down is when loved ones are lost. Everybody knows what happened with my family last June when I lost my mom, who lost her 7-year battle with cancer. Yes, I cry every single day, at least once. There isn't an hour that goes by that I don't think about her and what she's meant to me. And I'm just blessed and fortunate to have the family and friends and even the coworkers. Jonathan Winthrop, Catherine Pastor, Nuno Texiera, my radio staff, the Antoine Lewis's, Brian Borks, Dave Roberts, Kevin Reeders, Stephanie Ferniers, along with Molly and Max on First Take. When you walk to work every day and you work with great people, it sort of takes the load off your shoulders, takes the weight off, reminds you that, there's joy beneath the sorrow, or above the sorrow and the misery that just overwhelms you from time to time. And you're able to move on. Even though you never forget, you're able to move on and you're able to move forward even in the throes of having moments where you think about those things. And, when you have people that you love and people who love you and you love working together and you love being around one another and you love going home to folks or anything like that, it's okay. But then you have situations like Greg Popovich and what happened with him and his family yesterday. And the sadness can just be overwhelming. Greg Popovich, as I've told folks on many, many occasions, and I say this affectionately and incredibly complimentary, I often joked about him being one of the biggest phonies you can find. Because no matter how acerbic or abrasive he may come across to the media when you're interrupting him with these interviews that he hates doing during games, please understand that Greg Popovich is one of the genuinely good guys, good men the NBA has ever known. I had the pleasure of getting to know Greg Popovich a little bit because of Larry Brown, who I covered in Philadelphia when he was coaching Allen Iverson and them for 6 years. And I've known Greg Popovich ever since. Of course, we don't talk much. We don't talk often. We exchange pleasantries and kind words to one another from time to time. Believe it or not, Greg Popovich is capable of that. Sat down and had lunch in Utah. One time he was kind enough to call me over to sit down and have lunch with him when he was coaching in a playoff series against the San Antonio Spurs many years ago. When I heard the news yesterday that he lost his wife, Erin, after a long battle with whatever illness she was enduring, an incredible level of sadness just overwhelmed me. Not just because it reminded me of what I had lost, but I also imagined a man being married to a wonderful woman he no doubt considered to be his right hand for 4 decades. 2 beautiful children, 2 beautiful grandchildren, and the matriarch of the Popovich household was a constant. It was the kind of thing that allowed him to go about the business of doing his business and doing his job and being exceptional at it and coaching the team and guiding them to 19, 20 straight appearances to the postseason and 5 NBA championships and having guys like great David Robinson, the Admiral, to Tim Duncan, the Manu Ginobili's and Tony Parker's, champions personified, vouch not just for his brilliance as a coach, but the father figure that he was. And the champion that he is. And to just think that on this day, he has to deal with the reality that of all those people who loved him, perhaps no one was more dear to him than his wonderful wife of 4 decades. To know that she is gone, your heart just goes out to him. You just ache for him. Imagining what it's like for him to have to say goodbye and to endure what he's enduring. A lot of us have been there before. There's no doubt about that. And for those of us who haven't, the likelihood is that at some point we will go through it because loss happens in life. But it doesn't make it any less sad. It doesn't make your heart ache any less. And it doesn't leave you devoid of that feeling of such sorrow and such sadness and such compassion for one of the great, great coaches this game has ever known. So on behalf of everybody at First Take, on behalf of everybody on the Stephen A. Smith ESPN radio show, I just wanted to take a moment to extend my heartfelt condolences to Greg Popovich, his wonderful family, the Spurs organization, which is class personified as far as I'm concerned, and all the folks there in San Antonio who come out every night supporting this team, night in and night out, day after day after day. Everybody's aching today, but our thoughts and prayers are with all of you, and obviously especially Greg Popovich and his family. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. It's Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people!
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A!
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Ryan! I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Stephen A. Smith Show, brought to you by Vivid Seats, the official ticket partner of ESPN. Download the free Vivid Seats app today to get your tickets. Also, introducing the all-new ESPN app, now with ESPN Plus. What's ESPN Plus? It's ESPN's new streaming service available right in the ESPN app. With ESPN Plus for just $4.99 per month, you get thousands of live sporting events, including MLB, NHL, MLS, and top-ranked boxing, and a full library of movies and documentaries, including the entire 30 for 30 collection. And our listeners can take advantage of a 7-day free trial of ESPN Plus by signing up within the ESPN app today. The all-new ESPN app featuring ESPN Plus. Check it out today. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let's go to Albert in Cali. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Albert?
Hey, Stephen A. Two-part question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to know who the Clippers should hire as the next head coach, and does Jerry West still have enough juice to bring a superstar or an all-star talent to the Clippers?
The answer is I don't know on both accounts because Doc Rivers is still there after, even though they were 42-40, 9 games worse than he was the previous year. This was one of Doc Rivers' best coaching jobs. They had been in the playoffs the last 6 consecutive years. This is one of his best coaching jobs. I'm still waiting to see what the Clippers are going to do as it pertains to him. It remains to be seen. Jerry West and the cachet he has, he's the consultant. He's not the quote unquote GM and all of this other stuff, even though I don't believe that for 1 second. At the end of the day, it remains to be seen. We're going to find out this summer, because I can tell you this. Jerry West is competing with Magic Johnson. Jerry West did not come here to play second fiddle. He wants to one-up the Lakers desperately. He can tell you otherwise. He's lying if he tells you otherwise. But that's fine. Why should he have to admit that? The bottom line is Jerry West he departed the Lakers feeling like he wasn't treated fairly. And all that bygones, yeah, he's going to move on. He's going to move forward. But he is considered one of the great, great executives in the history of basketball. And I have no doubt in my mind, not a single doubt whatsoever, that Jerry West is diligently competing against the Los Angeles Lakers to do whatever it takes. And I don't put anything past Jerry West. Nothing. In terms of, this is the guy that got Shaquille O'Neal from Orlando for the Los Angeles Lakers. This is the guy that got Kobe Bryant from Charlotte after Charlotte drafted him. Prior to that, everybody forget the job that was done by Jerry West. Everybody forgets this job. Let me tell you something about Jerry West right here, okay? Everybody forgets what this man did with the Lakers. With the Lakers before Shaq ever arrived. Everybody forgets this. Y'all remember, it was a long time ago. It was like, I think it was 94, 95. I'm trying to remember exactly when it was, okay? It was before Shaquille O'Neal had arrived, all right? And Jerry West was so incredibly proud of his team because his team had balled out. Del Harris was the coach, okay? And they had guys on the squad. Their leading scorer was Cedric Ceballos. Nick Van Exel was on the squad. Eldon Campbell was on the squad. Vlade Divac and Eddie Jones was on the squad. Magic had came back and played 9 games. And Jerry West just thought about, think about it. Those guys, they made him so proud because they fought so valiantly. And it was real touching to see. But that was before Shaq and Kobe arrived. That was before they arrived. And I'm telling you right now, that guy, they were assembled by Jerry West. Don't put anything past this man. Nothing. When it seems like nothing can be made to happen, Jerry West could find a way. Don't sleep on him.
Can you see Kawhi in a Clippers jersey this season, next season?
I don't see it only because I don't think the Clippers have enough to offer him, to offer the Spurs. Remember, the Spurs still have his rights. He's under contract for another year. They ain't losing no Kawhi Leonard for nothing. And did you hear what I had to say? Listen, I said it on First Take this morning. First Take, my television show, every weekday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, right on ESPN. I said it. I wouldn't touch Boston's core 4 for Kawhi Leonard. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown could be potential stars in this league, and they're already 5 years younger, if not more. Gordon Hayward, who knows what he could do? We know what Kyrie can do, and I'm Boston. Why am I touching anything? I like my team. I ain't giving up anything. If anything, I'll wait a year and position myself to go after Kawhi without having to give up any parts to get him. I ain't doing anything. Appreciate the call, Albert. Appreciate the call. Nelson in Virginia, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, man?
How you doing, Stephen? Love what
Talk
you're
to
doing.
me.
Keep doing it.
Thank you, man.
I have a question about my New Orleans Pelicans. Since DeMarcus Cousins got hurt, Alvin Gentry changed the whole style of play. We're more fast break, up, full court press.
Yep.
My question is, next season when DeMarcus comes back, we're going to be slower, half-court team.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we'll be better with him coming back next year, or do you think we'll be better the way we are right now?
I think you're better the way you are now. Anthony Davis is a superstar. Anthony Davis is one of the top players in the world. And more importantly than that, look at how Rondo's playing when the ball is in his hands. See, the ball went through Cousins because what you had was a situation where Cousins is such an exceptional passer. You didn't mind running the offense through him because both he and Anthony Davis had to coexist. And I understood what Gentry was doing. But the second he went down, what did you decide to do? You sat up there and said, I'm going to put the ball in Rondo's hands. And I'm going to let Rondo run this show for this playoff series. Let me tell y'all something right now. You can't underestimate this. Jrue Holiday can ball. Mirotic is making a good contribution. You got Anthony Davis, who is a superstar. Cousins is approaching free agency. I got to tell you, I might look to move him. See what assets I can get for him. That would be me. I think that'd be the way to go. You stand pat. Listen, they got to win. Portland's got to win tonight or they're going to get swept. And think about this also. If you look at Jrue Holiday, do y'all know that Jrue Holiday has a contract? He's going to pay $25 million this year. 26 next year, 26 the year after that, 26 the year after that. He's guaranteed for the next 4 years. And all that money was getting paid. You know what? We never really thought about it. But guess what? There's nothing you could say. Because you watch Jrue Holiday perform, averaging 19 and 6, being a primary defender the way that he is. It's something special to behold, man. And Rondo's at $3.3 million, and he's entering the last year of his deal. This stuff is impressive, man. This stuff is impressive. We forgot about Rondo and his leadership and his ability to run a show and how he ups his game come playoff time. We forgot. But I bet you we remember now. I'm sure Portland does too.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.